Hi there, hope you're doing great. I'm delighted to welcome you to the first episode of Sleep Rich by Zvardi Meditation. To start, I'll read you the incredible story of Robert Kiyosaki's mindset, while you'll be relaxing with nature sounds and amazing landscapes. Hope you enjoy. Robert Kiyosaki grew up with two father figures. One was his biological father, a well-educated man with a stable government job. He was intelligent, disciplined, and believed deeply in the traditional path of success. Study hard, get good grades, secure a well-paid job, and enjoy the benefits of stability. This man, whom Robert calls his poor dad, valued education, but he also carried with him conventional ideas about money, that it is dangerous, that one should avoid risk, and that security is better than freedom. The other father figure was the father of Robert's best friend. This man had little formal education, but he was financially savvy. He was an entrepreneur, a risk-taker, and someone who built wealth not by following the traditional path but by creating opportunities. He encouraged Robert to question the system, to see money as a tool rather than something to be feared. Robert refers to him as his rich dad. The contrast between the two men became the foundation of Kiyosaki's financial education. Poor dad would say things like "I cannot afford it," while rich dad would challenge Robert to think differently, teaching him to ask, "How can I afford it?" That single shift in wording reveals a powerful truth. One mindset closes doors, while the other opens possibilities. The central lesson of the book is not about working harder, but about thinking smarter. Most people spend their lives working for money. They trade their time and energy for a salary, but they never learn how money itself can be made to work for them. Rich Dad taught Robert that true financial freedom comes from building assets, things that generate income even when you are not actively working. In a world where schools rarely teach financial literacy, this knowledge became a priceless advantage. Robert discovered that traditional education prepares us to be good employees, but it does not prepare us to be financially independent. And that, according to Rich Dad, is the real difference between the rich and the poor. It is not about how much money you make, but how you think about money, and what you do with it once you have it. This first lesson forms the foundation of the entire book. Change your mindset, and you change your future. Wealth is not only about numbers in a bank account, it is about control, freedom, and the courage to take responsibility for your financial life. One of the most practical and famous lessons in Rich Dad Poor Dad is the distinction between assets and liabilities. Rich Dad explained it in the simplest possible way. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. It sounds straightforward, yet most people misunderstand it. For example, many believe their house is their greatest asset. But in reality, unless it is generating income, such as rental payments, it is often a liability, because it costs money every month in mortgages, maintenance, and taxes. Rich Dad insisted that the path to wealth is about acquiring assets and minimizing liabilities. Assets can be investments, businesses, real estate, intellectual property, or anything else that produces cash flow. Liabilities, on the other hand, drain resources and keep you dependent on your salary. Robert uses the image of the cash flow pattern to describe how money moves in different people's lives. The poor live from paycheck to paycheck. Income comes in, expenses go out, and nothing is left. The middle class may have higher incomes, but they also accumulate higher liabilities, mortgages, car loans, credit card debts, so their money flows out just as quickly as it comes in. The rich, however, focus on acquiring assets. They use their income to buy things that produce more income, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of wealth. Another key point is that financial education does not end in school. It must be a lifelong process. Rich Dad encouraged Robert to treat life as a form of learning, where mistakes are not failures but lessons. He also introduced the idea of a financial IQ, the ability to understand money, investments, markets, and risk. Without this literacy, people remain trapped in the cycle of working for money rather than making money work for them. To illustrate these ideas, Robert later created the cash flow board game, a practical tool to simulate real-life financial decisions. The game teaches players how to move from the rat race, working endlessly for expenses, to the path of financial freedom, where passive income exceeds monthly costs. The message is simple but powerful: wealth is not built overnight. It is built brick by brick, choice by choice, by focusing on assets, minimizing liabilities, and developing the mindset of financial literacy. The final portion of Rich Dad, Poor Dad emphasizes attitude. Poor Dad believed in avoiding risks, seeking stability, and valuing security above all. Rich Dad, however, believed that risk is not something to be feared, but something to be managed. According to Rich Dad, people often allow fear to control their lives. Fear of not having enough money, fear of losing what they already have, fear of failure. But ironically, this fear keeps them trapped in jobs they dislike, living lives they did not choose. The wealthy, by contrast, learn to take calculated risks. They invest, they try, they fail, and they learn. Over time, their knowledge and resilience grow, and so does their wealth. Robert highlights the importance of learning from experience rather than relying solely on academic credentials. He argues that schools reward memorization, not creativity, and that in the real world, creativity, boldness, and persistence are often more valuable than traditional intelligence. Rich Dad also stressed the importance of selling and communication skills. No matter how intelligent someone is, if they cannot communicate effectively, persuade others, or sell ideas, their opportunities will be limited. Success in life and in business often comes down to the ability to connect with people and inspire confidence. Another lesson is about taxes and corporations. The rich often understand legal structures better than the poor or middle class. They know how to use corporations, investments, and tax laws to their advantage. Poor Dad, despite being highly educated, never understood these systems and therefore paid more in taxes and had less freedom. Rich Dad believed that financial knowledge in these areas was essential to achieving independence. In conclusion, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not a book about quick tricks to get rich. It is about mindset, education, and lifelong learning. It challenges us to shift from asking, "How can I earn more?" to "How can I make my money work for me?" It reminds us that financial freedom is possible, but only if we take responsibility, learn continuously, and have the courage to walk a different path. Kiyosaki ends with an invitation to step outside the rat race, to break free from fear, and to begin building a life where money serves you, rather than the other way around. Hope you enjoyed this never-seen-before format. If yes, leave a like. If no, do the same. Sleep rich to everyone.